It's nighttime, of course, early morning for some people. And I'm doing a live here. Uh, so I watched pieces of the Batman. I didn't watch the whole thing. I got to see pieces of it. And I decided to do this little video for you guys. I'm keeping it dark, right? So at present, you'll notice there's limited lighting here. And that's mainly because the movie was a dark movie. It was darkly lit, that is. And so I decided, let me keep in the frame of it. And let me, first of all, summarize the movie a little bit from what I saw. It's a movie that I personally would have liked to watch. Having seen it, having seen pieces of it, um, it's definitely a thriller drama movie. It's not really an action movie. It's a thriller drama movie. And for those people who are not into that kind of stuff, um, for them it'll be boring. But for me, that would not be a boring movie at all. Um, uh, the movie, did it bring something new to the table that I hadn't seen before? It's a little bit of a reimagining of uh, the characters we've seen in many Batman movies. So in Batman movies, we've seen Catwoman way back in I believe it was 1990 when they did the Batman movie. Batman Returns. We had the Penguin. We had Catwoman. We had yeah, and then we also had Joker in Batman 1989, and then I believe in Batman Forever we had the Riddler and we had Two Face. And for all of those characters in this movie, the only one that wasn't in this movie was Harvey Dent, aka Two Face, at least featured in the movie. He might have been in the movie, but he wasn't featured in the movie. So we had Joker there at the end of the movie. We had the Riddler. This movie was about the Riddler. Um, and we also had uh, Catwoman, Commissioner Gordon. Well, he wasn't Commissioner Gordon at the time; he was Detective Gordon. And Batman and Alfred and so on. This movie, not to get too long into this because this video is not about that. This video is more about looking at the three most recent directors of movies of with Batman in them. That would be Zack Snyder, Matt Reeves, and Christopher Nolan, and just sort of critiquing certain things about the Batman and explaining to you guys um, in the context of the movies what these Batman are and what they represent, etc. So in the Batman, the story is basically that it begins with an introduction to the Batman. Let me say first of all that the strong point of this story was really the story itself. That is to say, it was sort of a thriller suspense drama. Okay, um, sort of, because you kind of knew the Riddler was behind everything. We knew who the Riddler was to some degree. What the problem with it was not who the Riddler was in this movie. It wasn't about that wasn't it. It was about trying to predict what the next target was, what the Riddler was going after. So that's what made this movie good, and the music and everything that leads up to it is like it's kind of like a sort of kind of like a psychological thriller. All right. So that's what made this movie so good. The strong point of this movie, the strong point of Matt Reeves, the Batman movie, is the fact that we know who the Riddler is. We know, um, we know, uh, we know that there's stakes involved, and what needs to be done. And even when the Riddler is incarcerated or whatever, when Batman finally apprehends him and he's incarcerated, even then the stakes are still high because there's still something to solve. There's still something to deal with. So it's kind of like a detective drama, and Batman behaves more like a detective here. He's a couple steps behind, but eventually he catches up. Um, in this movie, there's certain heroic elements about Batman. Batman kind of has a value system already in this movie. Um, so this movie doesn't really add anything. It kind of gives reasons for why the Riddler is who he is, sort of like. It kind of flushes out the Riddler a little bit more than we've seen the Riddler before. Even though the Riddler before, we also had a flushed out origin story for him, the Jim Carrey Riddler. This one's much more okay. So this movie's more edgy, more hardcore, uh, more violent than say Schumacher's Riddler story or Harvey Dent. It's more grounded. Okay. This movie reminds me a lot of Christopher Nolan's movies. It borrows from Christopher Nolan's world. It's a different world, but it borrows from Christopher Nolan's world, and it sort of uh, borrows tropes and also uh, um, uh, borrows sort of the story's progression kind of borrows from Christopher Nolan's, say, The Dark Knight, particularly. Now, it's what I would say though. What I would say is, in terms of Batman, okay, in terms of Batman, um, looking at the Batman in Matt Reeves, the Batman, looking at Christian Bale or Christopher Nolan's depiction of Batman in his Dark Knight trilogy, and looking at Ben Affleck's Batman, which is one of the more recent Batmans in Zack Snyder's movies, I would say that actually, and this is something really, I think with so much nuance and stuff to him, I think that Robert Pattinson's depiction of Batman and Bruce Wayne is actually better than Christopher Nolan's, or should I say, Christian Bale's depiction of Batman in Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogies. I think he's more interesting than Christopher Nolan's Batman. Um, so actually, Robert Pattinson's Batman, I think he's a better Batman than Christopher Nolan. But and the reason why I can compare them like that is because one, they're around about. I mean, this is an earlier version of Batman, but still, they're around about similar development of Batman. You know, it's kind of like Batman Year One, sort of Batman. They're kind of borrowing from. Now, Nolan's Batman is a lot different. Um, there was Lucius, who was with him, and he kind of sort of altered a lot of the what should I say? He altered a lot of the lore to fit the sort of grounded Batman that he wanted, whereas Matt Reeves stayed more with the lore. Um, my, Robert Pattinson's Batman is more along the lines of Year One more than Christopher Nolan's Batman. That's another thing, and you can compare them because they're both Batman that exist in Gotham. It's a grounded world, and again, very realistic, very grounded. Okay, so because of that, you find that um, you can compare those two Batman. They're around about the same size and everything. Um, Ben Affleck's Batman's a different Batman to both Nolan's Batman and to uh, Reeves' Batman. Zack Snyder's Batman is living in a hyper realistic reality. He has to be super strong. He has to be stronger than normal. So they had to hype him up, hyper strong, because he exists in a world different to the Nolan's world and a different world to Pattinson's world. So why I can compare Pattinson's Batman to Nolan's Batman, because they're roundabout the same kind of Batman. It's just different depictions of it. Whereas Ben Affleck's Batman is a totally different Batman to those two Batman. He exists in a different reality, in a different world, and he interacts with different characters, both protagonists and antagonists. This is what makes Zack Snyder so special, because the Batman that he actually created, um, you know, pushed the boundaries. We had not seen Batman outside of Gotham ever, ever on film. And uh, Zack Snyder's Batman was out. He exists. He was actively involved in Metropolis. He was actively involved in Gotham, and then we saw him actively involved in the world. Okay, in Zack Snyder's Justice League. Um, the other thing about Zack Snyder's Batman, which is just totally different and brings just something new to the table than Christopher Nolan's Batman, um, and also Christopher Matt Reeves' Batman, is that this Batman is interacting with super powered beings. So he had to be strong. He had to be intimidating. He had to be, he had to use superpower weaponry. We're talking about guns and rocket launchers and stuff like that. He had to, because he was interacting with superpower beings, from BVS with Superman and and Doomsday, to Justice League, where he was dealing with, minions, parademons and Darkseid's minions and so on. So he had to have a certain level of firepower, as well as he had to have a certain level of protection, defense, and strength. So that's why he had to be a beast. He had to be a brute. You were talking about the closest Batman you'll ever see to the Dark Knight is Ben Affleck's Batman, and that's why everyone is such a big fan of Ben Affleck's Batman, is because, and why I believe he is the best Batman depiction I've ever seen, because you believe, you believe criminals will be intimidated by him. You believe he is an intimidating force. When you see him, his presence on the screen is just intimidating. Whereas Robert Pattinson's Batman, you're not convinced about that. He has to tell you he's intimidating. He has to tell you, when that light is shone in the sky, he's a warning to criminals, and criminals get fearful. The criminals have to sell it, that they're afraid of him. You don't have to do that with you just don't have to do that with Ben Affleck's Batman. You see Ben Affleck's Batman, you were intimidated from the jump. And Zack Snyder has a great way of introducing that Batman without saying anything, and you feel intimidated by him. Okay, in fact, it feels like straight out of a horror script, right? Whereas, even the music and the tension and everything that Matt Reeves does with trying to introduce Robert Pattinson's Batman, it really doesn't move the needle. Even when he's beating up the clown, that obviously that's Joker's presence in there. That's his people. You had the Riddler's people, and then you had Joker's people. It's basically the different classes of people revolting against the system, right? This is why Catwoman came to be. This is why the Riddler's there. That's why Joker's there. It's in this world. It's kind of oppressive in that you have these higher upper class people, and they do whatever they want. And I think that and the criminal element in the city fostered this pushback, which is why we have these gangs of thugs and people doing crime and stuff like that. Right? It's a pushback in Gotham. So, um, as the plot thickens, we learn that Catwoman's mom was murdered by a prominent person uh, in Gotham, and this is why she was trying to get her get back, and how Bruce kind of interrupts that in the Batman movie, and we see Bruce also having a relationship with soon to be Commissioner Gordon, right? Just Detective Gordon at the time. And what's interesting about it is we don't really know how that relationship was forged. Like, we learned that he has a relationship with him, but we never learned. how that came to be, which would have been nice to know. I mean, but it had been explained in Nolan's movies. Nolan kind of took a time to explain all of these things. Even though it's a different world, it's still kind of parallel. And that's why you can kind of compare. Okay, so let me just say this. Let me say this. Matt Reeves, the Batman, doesn't do anything particularly new. Doesn't bring anything new to the table in terms of Batman. Basically, it's a safe. It's playing it safe with this movie. Um, Batman does not. He kills in this movie, but and of course not. He's not trying to kill in this movie. It's collateral damage that happens. But any realistic movie, you know, sometimes people die in it. Um, uh, for the most part, I didn't see him using guns in this movie. This is why people are talking about no gun rule. I really didn't care about that though. To be honest with you, every depiction of Batman has its pros and cons. In this movie, this was a detective drama, most likely, just trying to solve the problems that come up. That's why the Riddler was used. Okay, but this movie plays it very safe. It's characters that have been seen before. It's um, it's even a storyline that's kind of seen before. We've seen this storyline before. It's pretty safe. So, in many respects, this movie doesn't move the needle, but it's still intriguing to see how he solves the problems, how they get through the situation. It's kind of like a less action packed um, Die Hard movie in some respects. It's kind of like that, but it's much more quality. There's a lot more tension and suspense. Matt Reeves was really good, and the musician who did the work really created a tension for you. Um, and so it made it interesting in that respect. Again, Batman took a lot of damage, and he's not the most perfect guy in his execution. You can tell he's still early in his career as being a vigilante. So that, there's certain things not working for him. I love the little innovative, you know, sky jumping suit that he used to get out of there. That was rather cool. Even how when he pulled the parachute, it hit again. He slammed against the bridge and slammed into the bus and then fell off of it. It was really cool, that stunt. There was some really nice stunt work in there. The movie was dark because I think the darkness kind of covers up the the action. And since Batman is a night character, basically, he dwells in the darkness, it kind of made sense the action was the way it was. If you were to turn up the light on your phone, because I watched this movie on my phone, if you would turn up the light on the phone, the action doesn't look as interesting as if you just kind of, what you don't see is what makes it so intriguing. So I think the action and choreography was pretty good. There was some scenes that were just really dope. Some of those action set pieces were really cool. But again, this movie is not. Its most brilliant spot is not the action. It's like I said before. It's the mystery, right? And Matt Reeves did a great job of creating that mystery behind certain things. It wasn't the mystery of the Riddler. It was more the mystery of the riddles and so on. And so that's what was quite intriguing and refreshing about it. Did it have a take home message? Not really. Um, it wasn't one of those movies that again would sort of you enter the cinema one way, you leave the cinema transformed with a whole new view on things. It's a rehash of things you've already and topics and so on that you've already experienced or seen. So it's not transformative in any way, but it is quite entertaining. I think for me, I know this is my taste of movie, so it would be entertaining, but it doesn't really have any lasting value. So, like for me to go back and rewatch this, probably one. I'll probably watch it one time. And that's it. Not really one of the most rewatchable movies. But for fans who wanted to see a Batman who's kind of like the classic Batman, who they like he doesn't use guns or he doesn't kill people. I can see how this appeals to them because I'm not gonna lie to you, it's great. It's a great drama piece. But that doesn't immune Batman from killing people. I'm telling y'all right now, and I know he killed a couple people in this movie, or If they're not killed, they're badly, badly injured. And yes, there was these ridiculous contingency plans where he was able to clip people to things when he knocked them off the edges and stuff. There's like all these contingency things, which is impossible in the real world. That would not happen. Um, but I would say this. I would say this to as many people as possible. I guess Warner Brothers probably gave a directive to Matt Reeves: make sure you don't kill anybody in this movie. So Matt Reeves had the impossible task, and he still killed people in this movie. He still killed people in this movie. It wasn't He wasn't deliberately trying to kill anybody, but he did kill people in this movie. And the point behind it is, there's no scenario in reality. If you're a vigilante and you're really a vigilante for 20 years, you're gonna kill people. That's gonna happen. Okay. High risk, um, high firepower, very dangerous job you're doing. You're gonna kill people. That's just if you're a police officer, if you've been in the military, you're gonna kill people. That's gonna happen. If you're in the line of fire in a high action area, you're gonna kill people. That's just gonna happen. It's gonna happen. That's realism. Okay. And so if you're going to do a realistic take on Batman, I don't care how many tools and gadgets he has, people are going to die. Okay. And sometimes even by innocent bystanders die, like in this movie. Innocent people died in this movie. Yes, he saved some people from the collapsed building top and the signs and stuff, but people died in this movie, and that's just a reality you have to face. And I don't understand why people feel because this Batman character, you have to be, especially in a grounded movie, you have to be somebody who does things which are just not realistic. Okay, so I saw people die in this movie, and again, it wasn't that I was insensitive to people dying in a movie, but that adds to the gravity of the situation. If everybody's being saved by the hero, which is really, really unrealistic, um, then what are the stakes in the movie? He's saving the day. He's always saving the people. Okay, fine, right? So you have to understand that. Now, the Riddler was working in tandem with Batman in some respects, and the Riddler thought they were a team. He realized he probably feels Batman betrayed him, and he's forged a league now with the Joker. But I would say this. I would say this to. I thought that this movie, and it was kind of, sort of, sort of, um, a nice little relationship thing was going on with Catwoman and Batman. I kind of liked it too. I liked all those elements to the movie. We had not really seen a Catwoman and a Batman relationship like that, so I thought that was kind of cool as well. And Robert Pattinson, he did a good job with Batman. He did a good job, and I'm sure there's going to be a sequel to Batman. This first one was pretty safe though. They played it really safe, and you can't play safe with movies. You can't. The problem with Matt Reeves is, from what I've realized, is he's replaced a director who did a great job with Planet of the Apes, the first movie, and then Matt Reeves came in and replaced in the studio, replaced that director. And Matt Reeves came in and replaced. He came in and replaced Ben Affleck, and Ben Affleck was going to bring something to the screen that we'd never seen before. Okay, so the Batman is a good movie. Is it groundbreaking in any way like Zack Snyder's movies are, like Christopher Nolan's movies are? No. Like Ben Affleck's movie would have been? No. Um, you know, even Christopher Nolan played it safe because Christopher Nolan's characters, well, we had Ra's al Ghul, so we never had Ra's al Ghul before. We never had his daughter before. We had Bane before. So Christopher Nolan brought new elements, new characters to Batman movie. Uh, uh, Zack Snyder brought new elements to the Batman movie, and then David Ayer brought new elements to Batman, right? Um, but when it comes to Matt Reeves, he didn't. He played it safe. He just brought the usual line of characters, and kind of ripped off Ben Affleck's storyline because, in a way, not really, but in a way, um, you know, Matt Reeves kind of did something that, Deathstroke was supposed to be going at Batman and destroying the people he loved around him, left, right, and center. And then as we know, in the Batman movie, Alfred is killed. Right? He's blown up. He's blasted. He dies. Um, so you know, Matt Reeves kind of borrowed elements of that. And from what I heard, the script that Matt Reeves used for the Batman movie, oh come on, god damn it, for the Batman movie, the script was actually one that was there. It wasn't an original script either. So they kind of ripped off the script from somebody else. So all of these things kind of just sour the taste of this movie because I know some of the background stuff. But even so, the movie is a good piece of work. It's solid. I see why people went to the cinema to see it. It would have, like I said before, probably I would have gone to the cinema to see it if it wasn't for what happened to Ben Affleck. Um, so let's discuss now. Let's discuss in a little bit more detail. Oh, before I go on, oh man, it's too late. But before I go on, I'm just gonna take 30 minutes, right? So I have only 4 more minutes to discuss. I'm sorry about this, guys. I would love to take a whole hour, but I think I should wrap it up. But first of all, I want to shout out to my boy KO if he ever gets this far into the video because this is 26 minutes in, and unfortunately, I haven't covered everything I want to say. Shout out to my boy KO. Check out his channel. The link will be below. He was talking about Wakanda Forever and why it's not making $1 billion. He was talking about how Hollywood's kind of pushing this female all cast, female lead sort of thing that's going on. I thought it was a nice contribution he was talking about there. So you guys go check his videos out. Um, Also, shout out to one of my sponsors for this channel who sponsored me. Name is it's Inflammatory Foods by Joanne. Check that channel out. Put the link also down below. But I forgot to tell you guys, if you want to watch this video uh, after the fact that I've streamed it, you can always speed it up to 2x to make sure that you can get this content. It'll be twice the speed, and then you'll be able to get everything in a shorter time because these videos are long. And I do take my time when I'm really trying to say something. So let me talk about now. Let me talk about what with the remaining time. Let me just talk about these movies in a gist. In a gist, I think that Zack Snyder's Batman, and I think Ben Affleck's Batman is probably the best Batman out there uh, currently. And I think the intimidating factor, the fact that it was new characters that Batman was associating himself with, he had to bring together a team. The arc of Batman was just so much better than the arc in this movie and in the Nolan movies. I think that and the fact that Batman came from a morally bankrupt uh, level to a hopeful uh, moral Batman, you know, it just leaps and bounds tremendous. And then the action in Zack Snyder's films is just so crazy. So I think the best Bruce Wayne I've seen is Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne. The best depiction of Batman I have ever seen, and the fresh take with fresh characters is again Zack Snyder's Batman. Ben Affleck, bar none, is the best Batman I've ever seen on film. I've seen Robert Pattinson's Batman. I think Robert Pattinson's Batman as Batman is the next best Batman and reasonably flushed out Batman I have seen on film. Michael Keaton's Batman comes next, and then I think Christian Bale's Batman, and then anybody else after. You know, um, in terms of story, of course, Christian Bale has covered a lot more than Robert Pattinson. I'm love to see what Robert Pattinson does in the future with Batman. Of course, I want to see Ben Affleck's Batman depicted on the screen yet again. We have a nightmare sequence to see. I think Ben Affleck's Batman is the best Batman, bar none. There's no greater Batman than Ben Affleck's Batman in terms of so many things, different scenarios we've seen this Batman in. I wanted to say one more thing though. As I said before, you have to when you talk about Batman, you have to look at Batman in terms of the movie that he's in, the story that's being told. And I think a lot of fans out there they just bash the different versions of Batman, whether it's Ben Affleck's Batman or Robert Pattinson's Batman, Christopher Nolan's Batman. They just bash them just like that. But you have to look at Batman in context of the story that's being told. Robert Pattinson's Batman was in a just trying to solve a mystery. That was the punchline, and he did a great job for the film that was there. He did an excellent job. Robert Pattinson's Batman is a tremendously fantastic Batman, one of the better Batmans. In fact, I think he next to Ben Affleck, he is the best Batman I've seen depicted out there. I'm just be honest with you guys. Um, and then after that, I think Michael Keaton did a pretty good job at Batman. It's still his film, Batman 1989, still holds up today. It's a little kooky, but the concentration, the focus, the scientific mind. That I mean, that movie revolutionized Batman. So I think Michael Keaton's Batman comes third, and then fourth in terms of Batman. I think it uh, would be Christian Bale's Batman. Christian Bale did an excellent job of kind of grounding Batman, having a grounded Batman. Remember, the Batman had never been in the real world. Nolan brought Batman to the real world, which is what was revolutionary. Batman was always in his own universe. Gotham was this kind of gothic looking thing with these big, tall buildings. Everything just exaggerated and very goth, right? And Tim Burton is just known for that, for doing these kinds of eccentric designs and very dark and gothic. And for that world, what's the guy's name that did the music for? Anyway, the guy who did the music for that world, it fit that world. Whereas with Christopher Nolan, he grounded Batman into reality, and it was just a very uh, grounded world, right? And that's what Matt Reeves did as well. He grounded the Batman into the world. But then we have Zack Snyder, who did what we call hyperrealism. That is to say, the world is grounded. It's a grounded world, but it's a grounded world where superpower beings exist or metahumans. And so Zack Snyder took it to the next level. Now, not to say that we didn't have in, I think it was Batman and Robin, we had Bane and we had, what's the guy with the ice? I forgot what the guy with the ice name is. You guys know who I'm talking about. We had those characters as well. Mr. Cold, something like that. I can't remember what his name is, but this is terrible. But it is what it is. Um, so we had those. We had Poison Ivy that was actually introduced as well. So we've had a number of characters. Schumacher did it. Batman and Robin. Nobody really likes that movie, but nonetheless, he introduced these new characters into the movie, and I kind of did the Adam West thing, trying to bring that back, and it just backfired royally. Um, I think once people see Batman in the light of dark and gritty, they don't really turn back, unless it's like Lego Movie or something like that. Um, People like Batman dark and gritty, right? They like the world of Batman to be dark and gritty. Um, and dark and gritty was Matt Reeves the Batman. I'll give him that. And some of the set pieces were really really fantastic. Um, uh, would 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 I say that there's just a couple other things I wanted to say. I know I'm going probably an extra 10 minutes on this one. With respect to uh, the supporting characters of these movies and so on, you got to enjoy them, but you remember always in the context of the story. So people say, "Well, Batman didn't kill in Matt Reeves' The Batman," which he did, but let's say he didn't really. It wasn't focused on that. It was focused on solving and trying to save people and stuff like that, right? So ultimately, in the end, and even though he was taking these injections into his body, to keep him, of course, keep him going. Um, these movies, in my opinion, you have to look at the context of the movie. All right. So Christopher Nolan, like I said before, he grounded Batman, and then Zack Snyder took it and grounded. It wasn't grounded Batman, but in a world where Batman had to be strong enough to handle and hang with superheroes and with supervillains and with superpower beings and aliens and stuff like that. right? In this world, Batman could come back down to being just a human being. Um, what can I say? I would say that ultimately, in the end, entertainment is entertainment. Sometimes you go into the cinema, you get entertained, you leave the cinema probably the same way you came. That's not the case with BVS at all. I do believe the Dark Knight. You're not going to leave the Dark Knight movie the same way you came, and I think Christopher Nolan's calling card wasn't Christian Bale that made that movie. Even though he played a role, it was, oh my God, the great performance of the guy that played the Joker, which I can't remember his name. All of a sudden, his name slipped my mind. Uh, so he won an Academy Award for that posthumously. And I gotta say, it was a tremendous, tremendous job by him. So I think that's it. That's where Christopher Nolan really shone, and that's why that movie made over $1 billion because of I forgot the guy's name. His performance in the movie, he made it. His name's coming to me, and it's just disappearing. You know. But when you look at the sum of things, Christopher Nolan's Batman's cool. But like I said before, all those Batman are contained in Gotham. The only Batman on film to this day, and I'm talking about milestones here. This is what makes Zack Snyder so cool. That operated out of Gotham, as far as Metropolis and into the world was Ben Affleck's Batman. And then we've seen Ben Affleck's Batman in so many different situations, even though not all of them are flushed out yet. There's the Nightmare Batman sequence. Oh my God! So the Injustice storyline, sort of. We have Batman being a hopeful Batman. We've seen Batman in his lowest points, brutish, you know, uncaring, revengeful, spiteful, manipulated because he's so tunnel vision on revenge. We've seen uh, a Batman, who's been inspiring, one who has helped to inspire a team and assemble people. We've never seen all of that on screen. Never, ever, ever have we seen that. We've seen with Batman Forever, Batman taking Robin under his wing, sort of like, and then Batgirl comes and joins the team, but not like that. This is a Batman coming out and recruiting. Okay, we've never seen that Batman. So there's just a lot of things about Ben Affleck's Batman that people love that makes Ben Affleck's Batman, I think, the greatest Batman I've ever seen. And Henry Cavill's Superman, like KO was saying, and I was trying to elaborate, um, what we got to see was how Superman became Superman in Man of Steel. And I said no one on film had ever done that. No one in all of the Superman movies uh, was able to show us how Superman became. And what I would have loved for Matt Reeves to have done, at least was to add to things, it was probably to show the relationship between Bruce Wayne or Batman and Detective Gordon, how that came to be and how they even showed the light in the sky and everything. I know Christopher Nolan kind of went through that in his version, but his version is not the same as Matt Reeves' version. And maybe Matt Reeves will do flashbacks or something. I don't know, but Matt Reeves, does he add a whole lot to the canon? He kind of adds a little something, something here, there, and everywhere. Uh, but not he didn't really move the needle much, But it's still an entertaining film. Um, you don't leave the film any better than you came, but it's entertainment, and that's the important thing. Um, so I do still want to see uh, Ben Affleck make the Batfleck movie. I still want to see Justice League 2. I still want to see Justice League 3, even more so now because what you've realized and what the Batman has proven is that Warner Brothers needs to go back to their DC roots. Ain't nobody want to see hee hee ha ha movies. Why are you giving us hee hee ha ha? Why do you put James Gunn in charge of the place, man? Why you want to see no hee hee ha ha movie? People coming out. The reason the Batman made money like that, right? In spite of most of the Snyder fans not supporting it, is because besides Marvel and DC fans liking Batman, the movie's a serious movie. The characters are taken seriously. The tone of the movie, that's a movie I'd go watch. I wouldn't go watch it multiple times, but I definitely would. I'd get my butt in the cinema. If it wasn't for the Ben Affleck thing, I'd get my butt in the cinema and watch that movie because that movie is a movie worth seeing. You know, that's what draws adults to the cinema. We're not going to the cinema to watch some kick up thing. We got better things to do with our time. You know what I mean? You want a movie? I mean, the movie didn't give it a lot of value, right? But at the end of the day, it felt like a real world something. You know what I mean? These comic book movies today, they don't feel real at all. They feel artificial. They feel manufactured. That's the one thing I like about Matt Reeves' movie. I know the studio seemed to have given him a mandate of some kind, so he had to do some assaults when it comes to killing. But other than that, Matt Reeves did a tremendous job with the Batman. Actually, he would have done it even darker. It would have been even darker if he was just allowed his creative freedom to the max. But he had mostly his creative freedom, I believe, and this is what he did with it. You know what I'm saying? So that movie came out, and it's a good piece of work. It's a great piece of work, and that's why it performed the way it did. When you look at Todd Phillips' Joker, it performed the way it did because again, a serious piece of work. And why is it that Warner Brothers doesn't get this message? The movies that really rake in the cash. Okay, Aquaman was an exception to the rule, and that's because again, Jason Momoa was rocking hard with us in the Snyderverse. It ain't gonna happen again. That's not happening again. There's not gonna be a repeat. Watching, you'll see. There's not gonna be a repeat. Um, and it doesn't matter if Ben Affleck's in the movie or not. It's not going to repeat because the people who are in charge of these movies are not going to allow these movies to have a serious tenure. They're not trying to appeal to the adults, which is stupid. I can't emphasize enough how stupid that is. And so until DC and Warner Brothers get their act together and realize, hey, we need to bring back Zack Snyder, one. Two, we can continue on the course that we're going, but listen, man, we need to put the Snyder Cut into theaters. We need to put the Ayer Cut into theaters. Let's see David Ayer's true vision. It was going to be a serious, much more serious vision, much more quality. Why can't we see that? Okay? Why is it only Matt Reeves is allowed to do that? And that's the stupid thing about these people. They don't realize you're losing money. Look how much money the Batman did, and it's not the best Batman movie we've ever seen. But people are thirsty to see characters taken seriously on the screen. Characters are not being taken seriously on the screen. Okay? And we don't need people with forced jokes and forced agendas. There's too many forced jokes, forced agendas, and studio interference in these movies. That's the problem. So we know the Flash movie is gonna be a mess. Okay, that's a messed up movie. That's been tampered too much. Too many has been in that movie. That movie's not gonna do well. Okay, uh, uh, Blue Beetle. Nobody's even advertising the thing. James Gunn put up a Blue Beetles, whatever. He never advertised Black Adam. Y'all not being consistent. You should have been advertising the crap out of Black Adam. And I don't care if you think The Rock is a competitor or whatever. It's DC. It's under one headline. You're supposed to be supporting anything DC. What the hell is wrong with these people? Right? What do you think this is? Factions? Y'all are in the same. Y'all supposed to be on the same team, for crying out loud. Y'all supposed to be on the same team. It's supposed to be DC, and we're moving forward with DC. No, that's not happening. We have all these factions, and we have all these clowns out there. So, as a fan of DC, because I like DC movies because they generally are serious, I can't rock with that. I just can't. You know what I mean? Shout out to again KO, 4KO, and my girl, my lady, my cousin, my family, Joanne. Shout out to her. Inflammatory Foods by Joanne, my cuz. Yeah, because see, um, we gotta get serious about this stuff. Entertainment is something that you have to get serious about. Could have had better entertainment. We could have had a Ben Affleck movie, right? Which would have been better entertainment because we would have seen new characters. We'd have seen Batgirl in there. We'd have seen Deathstroke in there. You know what I'm saying? No new characters were introduced in this movie. Okay, and so that's what I'm trying to explain to people. I'm trying to explain to people that these executives are just messing it up for Warner Bros. You know what? Like some people said, just get rid of these people. You know, you're going to sell off some of the DC properties or lease some of the DC properties to Amazon or wherever. Please do it, Mr. Zaslav. Do it as quickly as you can, expediently. I would suggest very strongly that you license out some of these IPs to Netflix, Amazon, Universal. You know, lease out the IPs, man. Because quite frankly, man, Warner Bros. Is not doing a good job with these characters in terms of movies. And the next set of movies are going to straight flop. They're going to straight flop. This is what it is. We already know this. 2023 is going to be the year of the flop for DC. The only thing that might survive, because it is a movie that just, I mean, we don't even have to think about this. This is a movie that is going to do well in the cinemas because of the director and because of the tone of the movie. Once there's no studio interference, this movie's going to do well. And that is Joker 2. It's going to do well. It may not make a $1 billion like the other movie, but it will do well. Todd Phillips Joker 2. It's going to do well, right? Once the studio doesn't interfere with what Todd Phillips is doing, it's going to do well. And that'll be their only saving grace next year. Everything else is going to flop. It don't matter what they say. Because I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Once the studio starts interfering in a movie and creating mandates and saying this is what you have to do and this is what you have to do and this is, you already fucked up the movie. You already fucked up the movie. And so whatever the Flash was going to be, it has been changed multiple times. The movie's messed up already. It's messed up. Should have just left it the original way how it was. Might have done a little bit better. Then you have Blue Beetle, who we ain't hearing too much about it, which is good. That's coming out after the Flash. So after the disaster that's called the Flash, we got Blue Beetle. Before that disaster, we got Shazam. Fury of the Gods coming out. And that is going to be a disaster as well. Not because David Sandberg is making a poor movie, but because there's ill will towards Warner Brothers right now. And there ain't nobody going to go watch Shazam. I'm telling you right now. I feel so bad about it, but it's too much hate towards Warner Brothers right now because Warner Brothers has ignored the fans. Warner Brothers does whatever the hell they want to do, and they're saying that the fans don't dictate nothing. Well, okay then. So since the fans don't dictate nothing, guess what? You get no support from the fans because you're not going to meet us halfway. So we don't care about you and don't care what you do. So all their movies are going to flop. It reminds me of Green Lantern 2011, where what they showed is Black Adam and Green Lantern 2011. They got about the same amount of money when you look at it, and it's because I'll explain to you why. It's because the people who support these movies, the diehard people, DC fans who support these movies, keep them alive. When the diehard's not even coming out to support your movie and telling you that your movie's a bunch of crap, you know you in deep trouble. And Black Adam was in trouble from Comic Con. You know, if they had only the San Diego Comic Con, if they had only said what they were supposed to do and bring Henry Cavill in, this might have been a different situation. But they did not do that. And then the Flash movie's been in all kinds of problems. I know this is the recipe for disaster. I know the movie's going to be disastrous. The movie does not look good. The designs don't look cool to me. This movie's a disaster waiting to happen. So the studio's trying to get the movie out of the way. Then you got Shazam before that. That's gonna flop. So it's like you're gonna have a series of flops 2023. It's just flop after flop after flop. I feel bad for the creators who are got themselves involved in this rut, but it's just about getting the movie out there, and so be it. I mean, just get 2023 out of there. You know what I mean? Now, if the studio was smart, they would have Zack Snyder's Justice League going to theaters because their movies. I think some of these movies are going to have short runs. Once they flop, you might as well just go to contingency plan two and just put out the Snyder cut. Just put out the Snyder cut out there. That'll bail them out. You put out the air cut. Should put out the air cut first. Let people enjoy that in cinemas. And let me say this: the competition is not Marvel this time around. It's gonna be Paramount. Paramount gonna kill it with the Transformer franchise, and Avatar's already coming out, and that's a 3D experience. So they dropped the ball. They should have put out the Snyder cut this year. They should have had the Snyder cut out after Black Adam failed. They should have put out the Snyder cut into theaters. They should have called back Zack and say, "Hey, put that Snyder cut out there," because they haven't. They dropped the ball on that. So when Avatar hits theaters and blows up and makes ridiculous money, just remember they should have made that move before Avatar. You want to make those kinds of big moves before Avatar. Avatar is going to dominate for probably until summer, and then Transformers going to take over. The two most dominant movies, I'm predicting it right now. The most dominant movie for 2023 and 2024 will be Avatar. And the next most dominant movie for 2024 will be Transformers. Those will just dominate. They will dominate. You're talking about $1 billion movies. You're going to dominate the market. Nobody else is going to compete with them. All right? Those are the blockbusters. Everybody else, whatever they're coming out with, Indiana Jones, nobody give a damn about that shit. What else? Mario Brothers, they cool. They're gonna make some money, but nobody care about that. The movies that are gonna dominate, I'm talking about dominate the market, is Transformers. I'm telling y'all right now, Transformers, Rise of the Beast, that shit's gonna dominate. I'm telling you right now because I'm excited for it. And Avatar gets me excited when I see it because I know it's a 3D experience. On top of that, it's gonna have story. So I can't wait to see that movie because I know it's gonna be an experience. I'm definitely not gonna see it. And I'm gonna tell you this: Avatar's not gonna open to no big set of money. It might open to about 100 million maybe. But I'm guaranteeing the word amount of that movie is going to. I mean, it's going to dominate. I'm not asking you. I'm telling you, it's going to dominate. That movie is going to dominate. Right? And it's going to change up a lot of things when it comes to the movie going experience. So there's gonna be higher demands to have better quality 3D and better quality movies and everything. So I'm telling you right now, I ain't asking y'all. I'm telling y'all, Avatar. I know it. I know when I see hit movies. Avatar and freaking Transformers are going to dominate the market. Dominate. Okay? So DC and Marvel are dropping the ball. You're dropping the ball doing all this SJW nonsense and trying to push different agendas and talking about pathos and comedy. Ain't nobody gonna give a damn for your shit after Avatar. I'm telling you, Avatar is going to dominate, and then and Transformers is going to dominate the market. That's just what it is. Transformers is a blockbuster for the summer, and it's going to be a blockbuster that eat up all the real estate. Ain't nothing gonna compare to that movie. I already see that coming, right? Them two movies gonna dominate. Period. Okay. So what does DC, what does Warner Brothers DCU have to compete with that? What does Marvel have to compete? I think Marvel has something. I think they have it in Secret Wars or something like that, right? But DC has nothing to compete with that. Nothing. Let me say it again. DC has nothing to compete with that. Nothing. They are an imitation of Marvel, and Marvel's already there, and Marvel's leading the way. So they have nothing to compete with that. Their movies are going to flop. I told you that. We saw this coming. We saw this coming. I saw this coming from a mile away. They have nothing to compete with this, and I'm being very objective. I'm not coming from I hate this or I hate. You saw how I assessed the Batman, right? The Batman, the Batman isn't a bad movie. It just don't move the needle. You understand what I'm saying? It don't move the needle. People don't understand what I mean. I mean, I'm not excited after seeing it to see more of the Batman. I want to see a Batman sequel. I'm not excited like that. Okay, it didn't move the needle. I seen it once. I don't need to see it again. Okay, Transformers is not something, and Avatar is not something you just want to see once. Trust me, right? And if they do Transformers right, and it's in 3D, oh shit, that's gonna be crazy. But what I saw, from what I saw, that shit is gonna be lit. It's gonna be lit. I'm excited for that movie, and I've never been excited for a Transformers movie. Never. None of them ever excited me. I've seen all of them, and I've never really been excited about it because they're always coming from a human perspective. This shit is not coming from a human's perspective. I hope. I hope the movie's not shit. I hope it's coming from a Transformers perspective, because if it is, lit. I'm telling you, that's the movie that's gonna take 2024. They gotta come with something really, really good to beat back Transformers right now. Transformers gonna dominate. I'm telling you, dominate 2024. It's gonna be Avatar and Transformers. They're gonna dominate. Paramount's done it again. So, and you can hate how much you want, critics. I don't really give a damn. I don't care what the critic score is on those movies. Don't care. I know they're gonna dominate. That's what I know. I couldn't care less what the critics say. All right, just for y'all to know, because I've had the experience with BVS, and BVS is a hell of a movie. Man of Steel is a hell of a movie. As my boy KO said, it's one of the greatest Superman movies ever. In fact, in terms of standalone Superman movie, it is the greatest, defined, most flushed out Superman ever. Right, and he's right. And KO, KO's he's a decent dude. He went and watched Black Adam. He went and watched certain movies. I didn't watch Black Adam because the black suit thing. He went and watched movies. He actually watches the DC properties. He actually goes in there and watches the movies. You know, but DC right now is letting us down. I know Marvel is doing something like that too. Um, the music, by the way, of the Batman reminded me of Star Wars for some reason. Darth Vader's theme, doom 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 doom, and Batman was doom doom doom, right? And I thought, hey man, they ripped off Star Wars theme. I just thought it was interesting though. But at the end of the day, I don't really care. I mean, I'm just saying the Batman. It was an entertaining movie, definitely. Quality. Matt Reeves does quality. Did it move the needle? No, but it's quality. And so I'm not gonna bash that movie. I'm not gonna bash Robert Pattinson's performance. I think Robert Pattinson did a great job. Um, it's a movie I would like. I would watch. Definitely, it's my taste of movie. And the fact that it did so well, given it didn't really offer a lot in terms of new stuff, new content, new outlooks, new takes on life and stuff like that. It didn't really do that. It was a pretty safe movie. It wasn't edgy to the point that it was rated R or anything like that. Still lends to the point that it did very well for the kind of movie it was, you know. And I know people are thirsty for DC content, and there's a lot of thirsty people out there. And yes, if that's what you want, fine. But I want something better. I'm not one of those guys that just pops in the theater just to watch a movie. I'm not that kind of guy. I can watch a movie from home. There's many different places to watch movies now. I can watch movies for free. I can watch movies on YouTube. I can watch pieces of movies, clips of movies. You can find an entire movie clip by clip by clip on YouTube. So I don't need to go to the cinema to see a movie. You gotta make me want to jump out of my seat and see that movie day one. And the only movies that have moved the needle for me, Avatar and Transformers right now. There ain't nothing else. The Mario Brothers thing, nope. Uh, Indiana Jones, nope. You know what I mean? None of the DC movies, none of the Marvel movies upcoming have moved the needle for me. I'm very picky about what I go in the cinema and see. But I know from a trailer, or I know from a certain thing that, hey, I need to go see this movie. I'm compelled to go. Oh shit, I'm excited for this movie. You know, even Rebel Moon right now, I'm not. I know who Zack Snyder is as a director, so I know he's gonna make a hell of a movie. But he ain't shown. They haven't shown us anything. They just showed us stills. They showed us a super, super, super duper duper slow mo of a person. They weren't even blinking nothing. You know what I mean? It don't mean nothing. Now some people are super hyped about that. I'm not super hyped about nothing. You know what I mean? I'm still waiting to see what Rebel Moon will bring to the table. So I'm a different kind of person. I'm not somebody that's so sold on a director that anything they do, I get an orgasm or I start going nuts. No, no, it doesn't work like that. Okay. So, some people get overhyped and they hype themselves up for stuff that you shouldn't hype yourself up for. And they get unreal, like because other people are pushing back, they kind of push back and they get overexcited about something that I ain't see nothing to get overexcited about. I don't know what Rebel Moon is. I don't know the story. I don't know nothing about it. So I have no feelings on it right now. Am I excited for Rebel Moon? Hell yeah, I'm excited for it because Zack Snyder's doing it. But I don't know what I don't know what he's up to. You understand what I'm saying? Because I don't know what I know a little bit about it. I know it's farmers on a planet and they're hiring people to come and protect them. It's kind of like a western in that respect. It's kind of like again the Seven Samurai. It's kind of like the Fantastic Seven or Six or whatever it was. It's a story's kind of like that, right? In outer space. Gotcha. And it's kind of like Star Wars as well, but not really. So that's all I know. I don't know. I don't know anything else. Okay. So am I excited for it? Not really. It's kind of like Army of the Dead. I wasn't excited for it until I saw the trailer, and then I was like, God damn! I gotta see Army of the Dead. You understand what I'm saying? You can't be excited for something you don't know what it is, right? You can't. But based on the director, the director directs movies that you like. Obviously, you're waiting to see what it is. So you're like, oh man, oh man. So you're excited in that respect. But you're not excited for the movie because you don't know what it is, right? You can't be excited for something you don't know what it is, right? Whereas with Transformers, I actually saw pieces of the movie and I'm like, God damn, I gotta see that, right? Avatar, oh my God, the world and just the way how it looks, and then knowing it's a story of they got displaced because the people are still gunning for them, they're still coming for them, you know. Is and Pandora and just the and it's underwater and stuff, and you see the underwater creatures and stuff. You're like, whoa, buddy, this is a new world and everything, and it's very exciting, right? And the music has a certain gravity to it. You can feel the cinema in it, and you're like, God damn, I gotta go see this movie, right? You're moved to want to see a movie. See, there's a difference between I'm on an hour and 2 minutes. I was supposed to take 30 minutes, extra 30 minutes on that. I'm kind of going off topic, but nonetheless, there's times when, and this is the thing people need to understand, and this is what I appreciate about, for example, Matt Reeves, the Batman movie. It feels like cinema. It looks like cinema, and it sounds like cinema. And the way how he kept the tension and suspense with the instruments and with the lighting and just the way how it was shot, I appreciate that. You see, I understand. I hate to bash on Marvel movies, but Marvel movies don't have those elements. They just don't. Thor: Love and Thunder didn't have none of that stuff. None. It was cheap, like fucking. Sorry about the F bomb. Like a CW thing. And I see these CW people walking around talking about this is what DC should be, and Batman doesn't kill, and Batman, and I'm like, shut up! God damn it, man! Cinema. We want entertainment. We want cinema. Shoot, I'm tired of. I'm tired of these binary kinds of ways of thinking by people who are not realistic at all in their expectations, and they don't judge films, they don't judge movies based on what they're telling you, based on the environment, based on the world they're in. I'm tired of these these monotoned, simple-minded people who, some of them are even critics, who are judging movies, especially comic book movies, in a certain way. Who says a comic book movie has to be that way? Who says a genre movie needs to be that way? Who said a story needs to be linear? It must be linear. It must go this, after this, otherwise I can't follow it. The hell's wrong with you people, man? And that's the problem I have with these critics. They feel everything must be a Marvel movie. No, Even I'm sure they bashed. I'm sure they bashed, and this is so funny. I'm sure they bashed Black Adam because Black Adam was so graphically violent, and it didn't feel like a Marvel movie, and it was too serious. You should have had more jokes or whatever. Come on, man. Black Adam again is. I'm sure it was a gritty movie to some degree. I'm sure they dialed back again. They went halfway on it. Should just gone all the way rated R and just done what you need to do and keep the gravity how you want it, and not just have jokes in there for jokes' sake. The thing about these movies. All right, so why is it that Black Adam couldn't duplicate what Wonder Woman did? Why is it that Justice League 2017 couldn't duplicate what Wonder Woman did? Why is it that Shazam couldn't duplicate what Wonder Woman did? Okay, Aquaman was a rare exception to the rule. Ain't gonna ever happen again, so y'all can forget about that. But you look at all the other movies where they tried to replicate what Wonder Woman did, because Wonder Woman actually had comedy in it, right? It had some comedy in it, and it was well done. I gotta give them that. But the Wonder Woman movie, when you look at it from beginning to end, is a very serious movie with a lot of gravitas. It's not they're not joking around in there, right? It's a very serious movie. It's a very serious topics. It's pretty heavy. You don't get that kind of movie. You don't just get hee hee ha ha all the way in a movie if you're not saying something first of all in that movie. And I'm not talking about some SJW agenda or some kind of stupid agenda, for women and women or whatever, right? We don't want or gays or whatever the hell you want to talk about. That's not what's going to make it cut. You got to have something substantial for humanity. It's got to be something you're saying about us that we can apply when we leave the cinema or consider. And that's what's lacking in DC movies. We're getting these empty films that at the end of the film, you're wondering, what the hell did I just watch? You were laughing and everything, but then afterwards you say, did I just waste some time in the cinema? Did I just blow off some steam or something? But what did I do? It's pointless because you leave the cinema the same way you came or less than you came. You see? So that's what we're ending up with. We're ending up with a laugh fest where people are laughing. They're supposed to laugh off their pain or laugh off whatever. That's not what Wonder Woman was. Okay? Now they got away with Aquaman. They got away with Aquaman. Aquaman was a film that, because the Snyder fandom decided to support that, I didn't support it. But because the Snyder fandom supported it, it made the success that it was, plus China, of course. It was the success that it was. And James Wan had some great action scenes. But quite frankly, I'm tired of seeing action scenes bail out movies. That's the Marvel formula. And I, for one, am not for it. And I told them that what Warner Brothers was doing, I said it before the Aquaman film. They were marvelizing the universe. Was I wrong? Was I wrong? Now y'all look back and see I was right. Now look where we're at. DC has no identity. The head of DC is a Marvel director. What the hell is going on? So you have so many other directors who have been more successful than this dude, who've directed DC movies and had success, but you pick a Marvel director, for crying out loud. But I don't want to talk more about DC like that. So yeah, that was the Batman movie. And in terms of Batman, I still think Ben Affleck's Batman is the best depiction of Batman I've ever seen. And for many different reasons, Zack Snyder pushed the boundaries on Batman and just took him to another level. And there's so many firsts in terms of what Ben Affleck's Batman and Zack Snyder did that I really, really need to see the Batfleck movie. Whatever you want to call it, I don't care what you call it, but make the Batfleck movie. That movie needs to be made. Ben Affleck was the original director for Batman film. It just makes me want to see Batman film even more because I believe, even if it's the original story, I don't care. Because I believe very strongly that that Batman that Zack Snyder has would contribute in a much more significant way to the Batman pantheon than this Batman. And you can say what you want. Oh, Batman kills or uses guns, whatever. You can say whatever the hell you want. I know Batman's history. I know the history of Batman. I know the different iterations of Batman that I've seen. And I can tell you right now, Ben Affleck's Batman, I ain't gonna say, I'm not apologizing, is the best depiction of Batman I've ever seen in live action on screen. Period. Period. Okay? And so there's no if, buts, or maybe. That's why Warner Bros. Brought him back. That's why he's in the Flash movie. He's going to be in the Aquaman movie. He's going to be, because that's, fans know this is the best Batman, hands down. And you got the Robert Pattinson fans who are now, fanning out on Robert Pattinson, saying he's the best depiction of Batman and stuff like that. And that's all well and good. That's all well and good and cool. I'm not gonna be mad at them. I'm gonna just step around here. So I'm putting some light into the room so you can see me a little bit better. I also dressed myself in black, but it didn't make a difference because the light was so poor. But the point I'm making is that, you know, Batman's cool. And the character can be depicted many different ways. And obviously, the way how Zack Snyder was doing Batman is Elseworld. We now know that's Elseworld. And it's not major canon either. So it fit in. Some people were offended that this Batman was so physical and brutal in every single way, shape, or form. But hey, man, y'all never read Death in the Family? Go read it. Go read that, and also go read The Dark Knight Returns. You need to read those comics. Death in the Family, that's one of the things Bruce does. When somebody really, really close to him dies, he gets traumatized like that, and he can go that direction. Just like with Superman, if Lois dies or somebody very close to him, his mother, he loses it, and Zach depicts that. Okay. In the Batman, there was a different reaction to the Batman on Alfred's death, right? Um, but nonetheless, this is the way how it goes, right? Of course, that's a younger Bruce Wayne as well. So all of those things you have to keep in consideration. But me personally, there are many different depictions of Batman, and I'm open to a lot of them. Batman by Gaslight, the first Noel Batman, and so on. So I'm just saying that y'all need to open your minds, understand the story, the context of the story that's being told. You cannot judge a movie if you do not know the story of the movie. If you misunderstand the story and the arc of the movie, you're never going to be able to judge that movie. So that's why I said, critics, if you don't know what the hell you just watched, shut your damn mouth. Shut your damn mouth. Because that means you couldn't follow the story, which means you shouldn't even be a critic. Okay? You need to know what the story is. I can tell you the story for Wonder Woman 84. I can tell you the story for any movie I watched. So I started explaining the story to you. And I also explained what the directors were trying to do. And then I'm going to explain the good attributes of the story and the good things that are brought out in the story. I don't even care about the performances. So I need to go with story first. Tell you what the story is. Then tell you what the director was going for in the story. And if I could do those two things, I could isolate those two things. Now I can critique the film on performances and so on, because now these things serve whatever the story was. They either serve or they don't serve the story. And that's how you critique film. You don't critique film on Marvel films or some other film. No, you don't do that. Unless you're doing a comparison. They ask you to compare this film with that film. You don't do that. You don't mention other films. The film is critiqued on its story. It's critiqued on its own merits. And a lot of people these days, they don't know how to critique films. Period. That's the truth. A lot of them don't know what they watched. A lot of them have misconceptions of what they watch. Some people say, I go and watch a film 2-3 times and still don't understand what they watched. And it's sad. It's sad because, they're not humble enough to lend themselves to the story that's being told. You have to be humble to see and not cut off or blank off what is happening. When you telling me you falling asleep in a movie and you are a critic, or the movie was so boring and you're a critic, your job is to critique films. You get paid to critique films. What the hell are you talking about? You fall asleep in a film? You stupid or something? You're supposed to be able to stay awake for the entire film, and at the end of the day, you're gonna say what served what. Okay? And if you want to say the film was rather bland because of X, Y, and Z, right? Based on the story, that it kind of fell flat, that's okay. But you must do it on the merits of the story. If you don't even know what the story is that the film is telling you and what its punchline is and what it was trying to do, then what the hell are you doing? What the hell are you doing? Sucker Punch is one of the most misunderstood films because nobody knows what the story really is. And when I say story, I mean what the director is saying. You have to know what the director is saying or what the film is about. And if you can't summarize that in a paragraph or so, it means you don't know what you watched. I've heard people say this film is convoluted or it has too many elements in it. No, it's just a little too high for your simple little mind. BVS in the theater, I always say this and I'll maintain it. One of the most fantastic works I see because it kept you alert. It was not a linear film. You're going in a circle or a loop. You're dealing with multiple characters. I loved it. But these dumbass critics talked about it was loud and blah blah blah, and I'm like, dumbasses. Sorry about the cursing, but they're stupid. They're stupid people. Because you suddenly when you was watching The Godfather and it was all these different people and all these different situations and all these different places, it wasn't a mess though. It wasn't all over the place. But suddenly, because it's a comic book movie and you have certain expectations for it, all of a sudden it's all over the place. Come on, man. Shut up. So, anyways, that's what I got for you guys. I am Christ I am disciple, aka Answer Philip. I thought I would talk about these three directors and how the worlds that were created for these different Batman. And I can't wait to see Ben Affleck's Batman movie, and it will come. And also Zack Snyder's Justice League, it will come because these guys are almost at the end of checkmate right now. Warner Brothers is going to be in a pickle because they're not going to make no damn money next year. They're not going to make no money next year because they ain't got nobody that will want to watch their movies. The only one that people might watch is the Batman. But all the other DC movies, nobody's going to be watching them. So they're going to be in a pickle. They're going to get squeezed. And if they go all the way to 2023 and they don't put out the Snyder Cut or the Air Cut, they're going to be history. They're going to have to sell off or lease off the properties. And James Gunn will be a leader of nothing, as Jarrell said to General Zod. You're going to be a leader of nothing. Okay? So, I'm saying this right now. What worked for Marvel is not going to work for DC. Marvel was the first to do it. There ain't going to be no copycat of Marvel. That formula don't work. I'm going to say it again. Remember I said this. Copying Marvel will not work. I'm out of here. Christ and disciple out.